Okay, thanks very much, Peter. And hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking to you today about Summa Silver, and the theme of this presentation being green metals and the green revolution and all of that great stuff. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that silver really is a new green metal. Something like 60 to 70% of all silver produced goes into industrial consumption. And there's really a very much a new focus on things like that. We all know, like things like EVs, things like solar panels, to the tune of where the IEA, is projecting in the next several years that instead of using 100 million ounces a year for things like solar panels, we're going to need 3, 4, or 5 times that amount. So when you look at silver's overall market size of being, say, around, I'm rounding here, but say around 1 billion ounces a year, if you start talking about needing 3, 4, 500 million ounces a year just for things like EVs and for solar panels, and that being 3, 4, 500% of what the uses are today for those applications, then that's very significant in such a small market. So it should be an interesting next few years for the demand side. But anyways, now just to switch gears and talk about Summa Silver. Summa Silver is a company that I started about 3 years ago now, really with the focus of looking in these prolific but historic mining districts in the United States that haven't seen much modern exploration or any modern exploration, in the last several decades. Okay, so during this presentation, of course, I'm going to be making some forward-looking statements. And if you want to read more of this is always available on our website. Okay, so like I was saying, Summa Silver, this is the overview slide. Really focused on the southwestern U.S. and these two historic mining districts that haven't seen much modern exploration. And when I was looking for a project and projects to start three years ago, I just thought to myself, hey, I really like the southwestern U.S. I really like these old places. So let's go and find one. Ended up finding 2 and working on 2 now. The first one is in Nevada. It's called the Tonopah Mining District. It's the eastern half of the Tonopah District. And the second one that we started working on a couple years ago now was called the Mogollon District in southwestern New Mexico. We've drilled both projects. Both have hit some substantial, and locally, I would say world-class drill results. And now we're in the process of wrapping our arms around what could be left in both of these camps. Okay, briefly introduce the team. Myself, Galen, I'm a geologist going back, over 15 years ago now. This is when I started. Before founding Summa, I really spent 2, 3 years looking for a project and found these ones. And then prior to that, I was managing the drilling for Next Gen Energy. So that's myself briefly. Chris York, our VP Exploration, he manages all of the exploration and drilling and all of that good stuff in the United States, in Nevada, New Mexico. He joined us from Hecla about over 2 years ago now, where he was managing all of their, or a lot of their exploration in Nevada around some of their mines there. Chris Leslie, senior geologist. He's one of the guys who discovered the Blackwater gold deposit here in British Columbia, something like 8 million ounces in the proven and probable categories right now. Jordi Belfiore manages our investor relations and corporate development. If you've ever contacted the company, he's probably the person that you've spoken to. And anyways, not to really get too far into everyone here, just in the interest of time. But long story short, we're a group of mid-career mining professionals, lots of geologists who have had some success in the past and now want to have a lot more. Okay, capital structure of the company, 91 million shares outstanding. Current share price today of, I think, 61 or 62 cents. So that gives us a market cap of, give or take, $57 million. And the nice thing for us is that, we're very well financed. We've been drilling here, so this is a little out of date. We've got about $11.5 million in the bank right now, which is a great war chest to really test a lot of our targets and just keep drilling out the zones that we already know exist. Shareholders, Eric Sprott is our largest shareholder at 18%. He's been very supportive along the way. All the way from 25 cents, and our last financing was actually at 80 cents. So he's participated in every financing going back to when we started in 2020. And then the last thing I just like to point out on this slide is that analyst coverage. Stuart McDougall, from Research Capital. He covers us and has a few write-ups, and we'd be happy to provide them to anyone who is interested. And he's got a price target on us right now of $2. Okay, so to talk about the projects, The first one I'm going to discuss is the Mogollon project. This one's the one in New Mexico. Up until recently, I would say it was the one we were less well known for. We haven't done as much work here as we have in Nevada. But the results here have just demanded follow-up. And I'm going to summarize those right now and just get into some of what we think is the great upside here. Okay, so this was the largest historic silver producer in New Mexico, produced something like 16 million ounces of silver and 340,000 ounces of gold at grades of about 800 grams per ton silver equivalent. And I just want to say, whenever I say silver equivalent in this presentation, it's just silver and gold. I'm not talking about lead or zinc or anything like that. And that this first program that we just finished up, and the zones are still open, but the first program really only tested 1% of the prospective strike length on the project. And I'll show you some maps next just to help put that into perspective. I've also got some I'd say cliches on this slide, like under the radar opportunity, unfinished business, multiple targets. Of course, that's great. But just to give you an idea of the history here, and it's very rich. This area was discovered in the 1880s, was mined between then and 1942. And production only shut down here in 1942 because that's when the United States went into World War II. So that's when all the silver and gold production in the US stopped. Between then and the 1970s, not too much happened here, but in the 1970s, it was put together by a very well-known geologist from Nevada named John Livermore. And John really was one of the original discoverers of gold in the Carlin Trend for Newmont way back in the 60s. He discovered several mines for them. And he really liked this area, and he put it all together. And then he did a lot of the drilling that was done here in the 80s. He actually financed out of his own pocket. So he had a lot of success, and that's a lot of what we're following up on here now. So right now, where we're at on this project, we've released results for 11 holes. All of them, except one, I think, have hit mineralization. Very strong mineralization in most instances. And one of the things that we do that we like to share is, because the veins here are so wide, they get up to 50 meters wide. We've been putting up core photos of entire vein systems, entire vein intersections on our website just for people to see. Okay, some of the results. We're zoomed in here to the first drilling area, but the results that I like to highlight are hole 5, 448 grams per ton silver equivalent over 31 meters. Hole 4, 429 grams per ton silver equivalent over 11.6 meters. And more recently, hole 10, which we just put out about a month ago now, I say 445 grams per ton silver equivalent over 16 meters, with a higher grade intersection there of 640 grams per ton silver equivalent over 9.9 meters. So let's just start looking at the maps now of this project. And here's the interactive part for the first time I'm presenting it. So bear with me a little bit, but here we go. Here's a map of New Mexico. We're in Catron County in southwestern New Mexico, and there's the project right in there. The closest town would be Silver City. Okay, now looking at the property, and we've got a site tour here that if you're on our website and you can go and look at that. And I would encourage you to do it because it's quite interesting and it's quite scenic. But here's a map of the project. There's a road that goes right through the middle of it, and then a U.S. highway over here to the west, Highway 180 goes through there. So access is actually very good. Now to zoom in and look more at the veins. So here's the project, and the red lines are the veins on the project. So you can kind of go down and look in 3D just to get an idea of how these things look in 3 dimensions. But I'm going to come back up and look at it with a map view right now. The first area we're drilling is just what I'm going to be circling right here with my mouse. It's just to get a flavor of we're really just starting to scratch the surface here, but let's keep going. Samples that we've collected on the surface from the district. Let's just go one more here, just to get a flavor of what's left in terms of joy at surface. 1,000 grams per ton here, 1,400 there, 2,000 here, 4,000 there. I don't need to read them all out, but over an area of 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers or a bit more, there's still a lot of joy here left at surface, and almost none of it is explored. Some of it's mined, don't get me wrong, but no real modern exploration. Some photos of how the ground looks. You can see there's a historic mine down there, just that little tunnel or at it. We haven't been in there. It looks a little Looks a little scary, but that's just my personal opinion. But now zooming in and looking at the area that we drilled. So right now we just finished drilling around this old mine called the Consolidated Mine, 500 meters by 350 meters. There are the holes that we've released assays for, with holes like here. This is the most recent, this guy here. That's that 9.9 meters of 640 grams per ton. The 31 meters of 448 grams per ton is over here. So we're really hitting on both sides of this old mine, hitting substantial to world-class, what I would call world-class intersections. Zooming out, some of the core photos. I'd encourage anyone to go on our website if they're interested in looking at the core photos. There's some very, very interesting textures geologically. Let's keep going. And the nice thing here is now we've drilled another 8 holes. We've drilled up here, we've drilled down here, we've drilled down there. Those results are pending, but we're looking at a lot of interesting vein intersections. But let's zoom out a little bit on the Queen vein around the Consolidated Mine. And there's targets, all the way to the north and to the south that we like and demand follow-up, especially here around the Eberly Mine. You can see there's a few levels digitized in the Clifton Tunnel, where we know there's mineralization down here. And we know that those levels are mineralized, but this has never really been drill tested that we can find the data for. So that'll be one of the areas that we're planning to drill when we come back here in the fall. Okay, and this let's keep going. So last thing I'll just say is option terms on this one. We have a 3-year option to earn 75% of this for $3 million, mostly in shares. And then at our election, we can top up to 100% for, again, $3 million, all of which can be in shares at our election. All right, so that's the Mogollon project in New Mexico. I'm going to switch gears and talk about the Hughes project. This is the one in Nevada. So this project is in Nevada, halfway between Reno and Las Vegas on the highway. It's about a 3-hour drive from either direction. This is the project that up to now I think we've been known a little more for. Has been a little better known for us. Here we've drilled 58 holes. Highlights being 3,900 grams per ton silver equivalent over 2.8 meters, 536 grams per ton over 18 meters, 1,500 grams per ton over 4.3 meters. Okay, I'm throwing a bunch of numbers at you. But what's really important to put things into perspective, over a trend length of 3.5 kilometers, we've drilled 4 targets, and all of them have hit grades exceeding 1,000 grams per ton. This is in the eastern half of the historic Tonopah mining district. The entire district produced something like 175 million ounces of silver and 1.9 million ounces of gold, at extremely high grades of 1,200 grams per ton silver equivalent. So this is really one of the 2 reasons that this and the Comstock lode are 2 reasons that Nevada is known as the Silver State. When you drive into Nevada, it still says "Welcome to the Silver State." And then just the last thing I'll point out on this slide, it's called the Hughes Project because it was formerly owned by Howard Hughes in the early 70s. Okay, map of the project. Here it is. The town is down here on the bottom left with highways running through it. You can see the bottom left there. You can see that's actually the town, and those are streets. And on the next slide here, I'm just going to zoom into this portion of the project. Okay, so some interesting drill results on the left that I mostly read out in the last couple slides. So not to drown you in numbers again, but I like to concentrate on the map on the right here, where we've got these 4 targets: Murray, Belmont, Mizpah, and Ruby. Where, okay, the 2 targets on the left, on the west, those are in the historic part of the district, where we're following up on things that the old timers didn't get to 100 years ago. Parallel structures that they didn't mine, extensions of veins that they didn't mine. This is where we did some very, very detailed geological modeling to come up with targets. This is where we've drilled the most holes. This is where we've had our most successes. And I like to say that every hole we drill here systematically adds ounces. So that's great, but really that's only half the story. The other half of the story is the 2 targets on the right. Those are exploration flavored targets where we're looking for an extension of the entire district. Historically, there's a fault zone that runs just east of the Belmont Mine that cut everything off, but we think we're onto it on the far side of that fault. Okay, so I'm just going to skip a couple slides ahead here to the Ruby discovery, and there's going to be an underground view. Okay, so here it is. Here are the 3 holes we've drilled at Ruby. Everywhere where there's a blue dot, it's over 100 grams per ton. and the best intersection is 469 grams per ton over 2 meters. But looking at the core, so we're getting some really good snips out there. But looking at the core, the veins look textbook very good. I'll say, to keep it very simple, where they're 5 to 7 meters wide, all the right things that you want to see. And then surrounding the veins, there's some very strong hydrothermal alteration over tens to hundreds of meters, where it's like, that's just me saying, it's basically just geologic code for smoke when I say hydrothermal alteration. Okay, so we drilled those 3 holes and we thought to ourselves, well, where do we go next? So what we did was we ran some geophysics. And here are the anomalies here, these blobs. So just starting with the green blob, that's the target. That's resistivity. That means more quartz, and we're looking for quartz veins. So that's the target. Okay, well, why do we care, right? Well, this is about 1.5 kilometers along strike from one of the best American silver districts ever worked. And these anomalies are completely undrilled. They weren't even known about before a couple summers ago. So what we're planning to do here, starting in early May, is drill targets just like this on this project. This will probably be the first one that we drill. Okay, so just to wrap up the Hughes property in the Tonopah district. Well, when I was first working on this, and I was just getting started here, I hadn't even done the deal to get the project. I thought to myself, okay, well, how does Tonopah compare to some of the famous Mexican districts that the Spanish have been mining going back, I don't know, 500 years? Well, you take Tonopah's got a mine strike length of 4 kilometers, and that many ounces. Well, you compare that to Guanajuato or Sandy Mass or Pachuca, 18 kilometers, 7.5 kilometers, much more strike length, many more ounces produced, which just makes sense intuitively. Well, if I take Tonopah at 4 kilometers, which is the length of this white bar, I add 1.3 kilometers onto it, which is where we're already starting to really hit at Ruby, and I let it run. Well, then it really fits in quite nicely with how big these districts can get when they get to be truly world-class. And it was that realization that really kind of was an aha moment for me, a eureka moment, and I flew down there and staked a bunch of claims myself. So how do our projects compare to some of the other areas, districts, companies that are more advanced than us? Well, I mean, these are low sulfidation epithermal systems, the same exact thing that you see in Mexico, and footprints similar to companies like Silvercrest, like First Majestic at Sandy Mass, and like Vizsla. And although these other companies are much more advanced than us, these are our, I'd say, aspirational goals to where I think that we could take this. Okay, so just to wrap up, because I see I'm over 20 minutes here. The opportunity for us is really taking a shot at 2 American high-grade silver districts that haven't seen any modern exploration. And our work is showing that there's still a lot of silver and gold left in both of these districts. And we're taking a very modern approach to continue to discover and uncover substantial silver resources. Okay, well, thanks very much, everyone. And thanks, Peter.
All right, well, Galen, thank you for that great overview of Summa. We do have a little bit of time. How about if we jump to a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so one thing I'd like to perhaps dig into a little with you for the benefit of viewers is, you started with Mogollon, and you said it could be one of the last great vein fields in the U.S. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, that sounds like quite a statement, right? But it is something that's pretty interesting in that, okay, so we know that there's good mineralization at surface over much of this district. There's 50 kilometers of vein, just on the project, right? And prospective structure. We're drilling 500 meters of that and hitting very good results. That's 1% of it. We also know that take that footprint, that 50 kilometers, take what we're drilling, and then take what has already come out of there, something like 16 million ounces that we know about. Well, that, based on the footprint, that's not a lot of production, and based on what we're drilling, we know there's still a substantial mineralization left there where we're drilling, and based on what we've sampled at surface, we know that there's strong high-grade mineralization even left at surface, which is generally very rare.
So very exciting in that case. In other words,
yeah, Peter, I'm a geo and I'm an exploration person. It takes a lot to get me excited because exploration by definition and in practice is oftentimes, it doesn't work out. It's something like 1 in 1,000 prospects, end up becoming a mine or something like that. I think it's even worse than that. So, to be able to work on something like this, both these projects, it's for us, it's a very much a privilege.
Okay, well, now, again, with Mogollon, can you tell us about some of the districts that it compares to? I'm not sure if you addressed that in the presentation, but if you did, maybe just sort of to recap that for viewers.
Yeah. So let's look at some. I've got a slide here. These are 3 of the districts it would compare to. If you look at these low sulfidation epithermal systems, a lot of the very famous ones are in Mexico. Sandy Mass, it's not listed here, but Guanajuato is another one. But better, more well-known districts now, Las Chispas, Panuco. Let's go up again, even on the Tonopah slide, where I'm comparing it to Tonopah. I should add Mogollon to this actually, and I think I will. Where you look at the Guanajuatos or the Sandy Masses or the Pachucas of the world, and I mean, you're looking at, in 2 of these cases, 1 billion ounces of silver produced, 4 million ounces of gold, 6 million ounces of gold, 1,500 million ounces of silver. So that's 1.5 billion ounces of silver. And even in Nevada, in the Comstock, I mean, you're looking at 200 million ounces of silver and 8 million ounces of gold plus. So, I dare to dream, I guess, is important here. And you want to think big, you want to think really big. But that's the type of, if you can really get onto something, that's the type of prize you might be after. And for us, especially in New Mexico, we've got the lion's share of the district, and then some. So, it's an enviable position to be in for sure.
I mean, I think hopefully it's fair to say that if you consider when you make the comparison to these other districts, and then you consider the jurisdiction you're in, and then the access to infrastructure, and then you add the potential on top of that, it really does make it pretty exciting. And probably underappreciated.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at our market cap and compare it to some of our peers that aren't that much further ahead of us, there's definitely big differences in a lot of cases, and therein lies the opportunity. And if we can combine that opportunity with some good silver tailwinds, which I think are coming, hey, I think it could be very good for investors and for me as a shareholder too.
Great. We have one question. I'm going to assume that it is meant for your company, but so the question is, have you tapped into South African expertise in your projects?
South African? No, we haven't. Our workforce is mostly American geologists, and mostly from Nevada, because there's a lot of good expertise there.
Sure. So I have a question, and so if you could maybe just give us some idea, and this will help even to kind of wrap things up and put a little bow on everything. But so in both on both Hughes and Mogollon, maybe you can tell us what viewers can look forward to over the next several months, what kind of work you're going to be doing in both of those on both of those projects, and what we can look forward to from there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So lots teed up for us. Lots of news teed up for us. We've got pending assays from New Mexico. We're going to start drilling again in Nevada here in early May. So in about, give or take, a month from now, testing those really interesting exploration targets. We've also been working on metallurgical work on both projects that I'll be able to start talking about more soon. And we've also been doing things like claim staking and looking for new projects. So lots more to talk about there, and sampling and all of that stuff. So that's it. And for us having $11+ million in the bank, well, we're very well financed to continue to drill, continue to keep showing people the strength of both of these projects. And that's really our goal for this year, is to get as much done on that front as we can. But at the same time, being very respectful of the Treasury and really looking at market conditions to dictate how much we do. But lots has already been done, and there's lots coming. So for us, it's kind of go this year.
Excellent. Well, again, Galen, thanks for that great overview of Summa. I think it's certainly an exciting time. I'm comfortable saying that it's an exciting time for silver, and
Good.
and lots of potential. I mean, both on the monetary and on the green transition and industrial side of things with the metal. Again, thanks for that great overview, and I encourage everyone to go to your website, look at your presentation, dig into that, and contact the company if they have further questions.
So sounds good. Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. And you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on LinkedIn, and of course our website. And please contact us anytime.
Okay, thanks very much again.
Thanks.